The March for Life in downtown Chicago brings out thousands of pro-life supporters from the Chicago area and across the Midwest. We have the highlights. Chicago area Catholics are invited to take part in the Festival of Forgiveness, a special opportunity to receive God's mercy through the sacrament of penance. And we'll talk with Archbishop Blase Cupich about the Synod of Bishops on the family, what it is, how it works, and what the bishops hope to achieve. You're watching Catholic Chicago.
The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Hello, I'm Todd Williamson from the Office for Divine Worship with the Archdiocese of Chicago. And with me for the next half hour is Archbishop Blase Cupich. Archbishop, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Todd, thanks so much.
Good. This week, we're recording this show during the week where we mark the anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision that legalized abortion in the United States. You yourself are involved in a number of activities this week. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, yes, the March for Life begins this week with the Mass at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, and I will be joining Cardinal Sean O'Malley, who is the chair of the Pro-Life Committee of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, at the opening Mass on the evening of Tuesday evening. And then the march will take place on Wednesday.
We've got a fairly large contingent of Chicagoans participating in the march.
Yes, I'm told up to 400 people.
Wow, wonderful.
Yes.
It began yesterday with a rally at Federal Plaza
Right.
and the Thompson Center. You were a part of that.
I was.
Our photojournalist, Mike May, from the Office of TV and Radio, was there gathering images and sounds of the event.
Oh, great. Let's take a look at that.
Today we commemorate an anniversary that breaks our heart, but also compels us to speak out, to fight with love, to be a voice for the voiceless, as we remember the 42nd anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision. Since January 22nd, 1973, more than 57 million of our unborn brothers and sisters have been legally killed. And as the mom of 2 adopted boys, I can attest that each one of those children is wanted by someone.
Unfortunately, for my friends and myself, abortion has always been a reality in our lifetimes. We come of age in a world where destroying a preborn life is considered normal. We come of age in a world where men and women who choose suicide and abortion are hailed as heroes. We come of age bearing the wounds of abortion. All of us here today are survivors of the culture of death.
To march means we can't sit still. We can't sit still and let another day go by without bringing to the attention of everyone that there are those who are struggling, literally struggling to come into the world, and we are here to do everything possible to make sure that their right to life is preserved. We can't sit still, we have to march.
When I was facing a difficult pregnancy, I was lost. I made an appointment to have an abortion at Planned Parenthood. I was told that I needed to go get an ultrasound before the abortion, so I searched for organizations that offer free ultrasounds. Thankfully, I stumbled upon Aid for Women. They have 5 locations where they help women find the resources they need to choose life. What Aid for Women was able to provide for me was a window into the most beautiful sight I had ever seen, my unborn child. There was something on that ultrasound screen that totally changed my heart. I realized that my baby was alive and that he needed me. It was only 24 hours before my scheduled abortion that I saw the picture that would change my life forever. 7 months later, I had Max. He is now 2.5 and is an active and healthy little boy. Max is an amazing gift to my life.
That seems like quite an event. You were one of the speakers that spoke at Federal Plaza, I believe. What did you say to the group, the participants who were gathered?
I told people that we always need to step back and remind ourselves what we're doing and why we're doing it. I indicated that this is a march. It's not a demonstration, but it's a march that helps us understand that what we're doing is so important that we can't sit still. Mm-hmm. And so we need to march. We need to move ahead. There are concerns that need to be addressed. But the other part of marching is that we do it together. So we're trying to build a sense of solidarity among ourselves, but also to express the solidarity that we have with the unborn child. Mm-hmm. And finally, I noted that the march also gives us an opportunity to really see how we are inviting other people to join us. And that is why I was so pleased to see the great number of young people who are there. Young people today look around their classrooms and see that there are students who are not in the desk next to them because their life was not permitted to come into this world. And I think that is energizing young people to become a part of this. So I just wanted to remind people what a march means.
Mm-hmm. It was a great distinction, I think a profound distinction between what a march is and what it is not.
Yes, that's right. We weren't there just to demonstrate.
Yeah.
We were there to march, and with all the high significance that that means.
Archbishop, this wasn't the only event that you've been involved in the last number of weeks, not just with this topic either.
It's been a very busy week. Earlier I was at the State House for the inauguration of the new governor. He asked me to do the invocation on Monday, and then Wednesday I came back to Springfield for the swearing in of the House. And then on Friday, the city, the mayor asked me to be a part of the celebration for the marking of the birthday of Martin Luther King, and I did the invocation on that occasion. And then, of course, Sunday with the march. So yes, it was important, I think, to give expression to how the church views itself in public life. We have a place in the public square. We don't impose, we propose. And I think that's a distinction that Pope Paul VI used, and it was carried through even to Benedict XVI, that the church does have a place in the public square to add to the discussion and to give the light of faith to the tough issues that humanity is facing today.
And you certainly did that through all of those various venues.
Right, and I'm so glad that people from the state to the city here are so welcoming of me and the church. I think it speaks well for all the good work that has been done over the years by the church, and the way that Cardinal Bernardine and Cardinal Francis George put their voice forward in a way that helped create the freedom for a good discussion.
And how should the average Catholic then be part of that public square?
Well, I think what we need to do is to make sure that we, first of all, are informed about the real situation of people's lives. We can't go in just with an ideology. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, has reminded us that we really have to understand that realities are greater than ideas. And when he says that, he's talking about how, at the ground level, the everyday experience, we have to be in touch with the real needs of people, rather than coming with our own ideas, first of all, that we impose on people. And it's out of that experience of sharing people's lives that we can begin to help them, lead them, accompany them to the will of God.
It certainly echoes a lot actually, of what Pope Francis and how he speaks of going out and encountering the other.
Right. He uses those two words very, I think, instructively to us, encounter and accompaniment. Yeah. You can't just encounter people, you have to walk with them.
And you're certainly accompanying those participants in the observation of the pro-life movement this week, last couple of days. You can't talk about the value of life and raising children with that value without talking about family.
That's right.
And one of the other events later this year that you'll be involved in is the Synod on the Family.
Right.
Most Catholics know that last October was an extraordinary assembly of the General Synod, and that this coming October is the General Assembly. Maybe you could talk with us about this whole idea of the Synod, what it is, what its purpose is, how you'll be involved in it, and what you think the Church will be able to accomplish through this Synod.
Well, I think the Holy Father has set the Church on a new trajectory with regard to how we host synods, how we hold synods. And it is about respecting the fact that the Word of God, the Holy Spirit, speaks through everyone. And so we have to be attentive to the voice of everyone. He said at the Extraordinary Synod, no one should come into the room and say, you can't say that. It's important for us to listen to the Holy Spirit and to do that discerning. So in our diocese, what we're doing as a preliminary step is I'm consulting with the Archdiocesan Women's Council, with the Archdiocesan Pastoral Council, and with the Presbyteral Council, and asking them to help me formulate a way in which we can have broad consultation in the diocese about the proposals that the Synod will be taking up this fall. And we're looking for a real authentic way to contribute, to make our contribution to not only the Church in the United States, but the Church Universal. And so more information will be forthcoming to the parishes, to our pastors, but we're starting at the level of just doing initial consultations right now.
Wonderful. That's already begun. I mean, we've already had some experience of that. Almost unprecedented. The survey was sent out by Rome to the bishops of the world, and here in Chicago, the faithful had access through the Archdiocesan website.
Right.
Talk about the importance just of that input.
Well, I think what it does is it gives context to the issue. So often there are truths of the gospel, truths of our tradition that we can very easily articulate, but they're formulated within the context of theology and theological discussions. The everyday life of people also must be taken into consideration. And the Church has to speak in a language that's accessible to people, that's understandable to people. And the only way we can do that is to listen to people's experiences first of all, to, in a way, allow them to give us the grammar and the vocabulary in order to craft the teachings of the Church in a way that people can benefit from them. And that is what I think is quite helpful and new about the experience of the Synod. And I have great hopes that we're going to be able to move forward. It's not about changing doctrinal formulas, doctrinal issues, that is, but rather it's about making sure that what the Church teaches can be understood by people, and also that they understand that they are invited in a gradual way to accept it, that the Church is going to accompany them with God's mercy, with forgiveness, with understanding and patience. And I think that's going to be a real task. The work will really begin after the Synod in our dioceses. How do we respond to what the Synod has done? Because that's where the work really has to take place. The
Extraordinary Assembly was last October, as we made mention of.
Right.
What were some of the issues or some of the main themes that you saw coming out of that Extraordinary Assembly?
Well, I think first of all, the importance of family and how the breakdown of the family has had an impact not only in terms of individual families, but in society at all. We see that in our own country, where a larger proportion, different than in the past, of children who are born in the world are born out of wedlock. They don't have the support system of a family. And so that does have an impact on society, on children, and on families. So we have to look for a way in which we hold up and support the value of married love, of bringing children into the world, and having society support them. So I think that's the first takeaway for me. The other is that there are people who are living in blended families today. Families are not the nuclear family of Ozzie and Harriet that we had in the 1950s. But rather, we have families where maybe people are divorced and remarried. Maybe it's a single mother. Maybe it is a grandmother or a grandfather who is raising a child. We see that kind of difference in the family structure. Well, we have to value that. We have to encourage, of course, the nuclear family, but we have to deal with the reality of where people are and their struggles are. And the Church has to reach out and let people know who are in those new situations that we're just as much with them as we were with families in the past.
I've made mention to you before that we come from similar situations, both families of 9 children.
Yes, yes.
So you know the importance of
Right.
that support and being raised in that situation.
That's true. And at the same time, I think all of us too, with large families, know that as all of our siblings grow up and our nephews and nieces and the family expands, there are going to be problems. There are going to be divorces. There are going to be some people who have same-sex attractions, who are gay and lesbian. There are going to be people who have different problems with addiction to drugs and alcohol. All the social problems that we see and also the challenges that people have today are in each one of our families. And we can't be naive about the fact that just as we try to reach out to our own individual family members who have their own particular needs and struggles, then we also have to do that with the larger family.
What will your role be in it? I understand that you are an alternate for
Well,
the Synod?
that has been reported in the paper. It's not anything that is in any way that I'm going to talk about or confirm. Somebody claims to have received confidential information about that and published it, but at this point I would just use the television term of stay tuned.
All right. All right. Thank you very much for that. We will be back with more Catholic Chicago right after these messages, so stay tuned.
To Teach Who Christ Is, a campaign for Catholic education and faith formation.
I believe that when we are teaching about Jesus Christ to our students, that gives us the greatest role model that we could possibly have.
You will have the basic tools to make good moral decisions that will affect your future.
Academics are great here, and if you don't understand something, the teachers will work with you to help you understand.
Religious education classes help my children to see the difference between right and wrong and make the right decision.
To Teach Who Christ Is will be rolled out in parishes across the Archdiocese of Chicago over a 3-year period. To find out more about this major fundraising campaign for Catholic education and faith formation, go to toteachwhochrist.org.
When I grow up, I want to use my education to help other people and, teach others about God.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago. Archbishop Cupich, we were just talking about the Synod on the Family called for by Pope Francis. Another topic that Pope Francis has talked an awful lot about is being open to God's mercy.
That's right. And it is a theme that he has highlighted since the very beginning of his pontificate. Because he wants to make sure that people are not held back from approaching God simply because they think that their sin is unforgivable or that the Church doesn't care about them. It's interesting that Cardinal Walter Kasper, who is a close collaborator of the Holy Father, he's retired, he's a German cardinal, wrote a very important book on God's mercy, indicating that we have had all sorts of treatises and studies about sin and redemption and the Eucharist and all other aspects of our theology, but we don't have a developed theology of mercy. And so he wrote a book to try to show how mercy is really at the heart of especially the Old Testament.
And certainly the mission of Christ.
Exactly.
And Pope Francis called for a festival of forgiveness to be observed next month, part of the Lenten observance. It didn't say an awful lot about what that festival should look like, presumably to allow various dioceses to implement that according to how they're able.
That's right.
How will Chicago be participating in this festival of forgiveness?
Well, we're kicking everything off on Ash Wednesday. And
I love Ash Wednesday.
Yes, yes, and people are very responsive to the imposition of ashes on the forehead. And so I'm going to start with Mass early in the morning to distribute ashes, and then in the evening I will end with some young students, college students, and throughout the day confessions will be heard during the Festival of Forgiveness. It's an opportunity for us to make sure that people realize that priests are going to be available, accessible for them in their need. And so it will be a long period of time in which people will have the opportunity to celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation, or just come in for a blessing, or have someone pray for them with regard to healing and forgiveness in their life.
There are a number of parishes around the Archdiocese that will be open 24 hours?
They will. They'll be open 24 hours in order for us to make it easy, convenient, accessible for people to come in at any time. We all know that God works in people's lives in different ways. And I've always tried to encourage seminarians when I was a rector of a seminary, and then also priest as a bishop of now 3 dioceses, that we have to look at our ministry in a way that's really filled with humility. People come to us, I tell them, because they have discovered that God is real for them, that God is touching their lives. And they come to us because they want us to confirm them in that conviction, and they want us to help them nourish that conviction in their life. And so it's not a matter of we taking the initiative, that we would take the initiative, but rather it's a matter of recognizing that God is already working in their life, and we're there to help them, to bring them along, to, in a way, nurse them, almost in a way be some kind of a means and instrument by which God will help bring that new life to fruition for them.
Well, the Lenten observances and everything that we do throughout Lent aimed at helping us to be more open to God's mercy. How can the average Catholic do that in their own lives, to be open, more aware of God's mercy?
Well, I think, we do use that term examination of conscience, but sometimes we restrict it only to some kind of a diagnostic about what's wrong with us. And I think that's too narrow of a definition. I think the examination of conscience has to be about what is it in my life that is of concern to me, that's a struggle, that's sinful, that's worrisome, and have I brought it to God? And if not, why not? Because God really, in the end, wants to encounter us, wants us to fall in love with God. And as a result, it's not just a matter of God the bookkeeper who is charting down our rights and wrongs, but rather God who wants to come and, as Jesus says, make His dwelling place in us. And so if we have those pockets in our lives that are sinful, worrisome, that we're holding on to ourselves, we're not making space for God. And so an examination of conscience is about bringing all that to Christ, our weaknesses, our sinfulness, and realizing that God wants to be a part of that too with His healing. And that's why He comes into our lives. So my hope would be that we really would have an examination of conscience that would go beyond kind of a diagnostic of what we've done wrong.
What a wonderful image of falling in love with God. And I think you make a point. Most Catholics, with an examination of conscience, immediately think of the sacrament of penance and reconciliation. I've always loved that the Church's night prayer, every night, includes an option for an examination of conscience, so that it's not just a once in a while, but that this is what you just spoke about, is we're called to make that a part of our daily living.
Right. To look at where God is working in my life already, to give thanks to God, but where God is not permitted by me to go into my life, and to let go of that. That we all have those areas in our life that are deep pockets of not allowing the redemption and the mercy of God to come into. And we have to bring those to Christ if we really do want Him to dwell totally in us.
So this is a positive thing. This isn't
very
a
much.
finger wagging.
Very much.
The very fact that it's couched in the term a festival of forgiveness. I mean, the connotation literally being an opportunity to delight in God's mercy, right?
That's right, and it is really a feast, as festival would give us that sense that it is the Lord is putting before us the great banquet table of His mercy, and so we are there to enjoy the fruits of the redemption of Christ that are on that table.
A banquet table in which we take part every single week.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Thank you very much for those thoughts on the Festival of Forgiveness, which again will take place on Friday and Saturday, February 27th and 28th. For more information on the Festival of Forgiveness and those churches that will be open 24 hours, go to the Archdiocesan website, www.archchicago.org, and click on the icon for the Festival of Forgiveness. Finally, let's take a look at a few of the recent activities that have taken place around the Archdiocese of Chicago, making it such a vibrant faith community. Here's our trip around the Archdiocese.
Cardinal Francis George receives the Medal of Merit, the City of Chicago's highest honor bestowed on a resident. Cardinal George is the first Archbishop of Chicago to receive the medal. He is also the first native Chicagoan to serve as Archbishop and the first Cardinal to retire as Archbishop of Chicago. Archbishop Blase Cupich celebrates Mass at Our Lady of Mercy Parish to mark the end of Simbanga B. That's a novena of Masses celebrated by Filipino Catholics in preparation for Christmas. Auxiliary Bishops John Manns and Alberto Rojas participate in a Christmastime posada through the streets of Chicago. This traditional reenactment of Mary and Joseph's search for shelter was held to give thanks for recent immigration reform and to pray for additional reforms of the U.S. immigration system. More than 70 employees of Gibson's Restaurant Group prepare and serve New Year's Day meals to 400 Catholic Charities clients. Gibson staff also distributed gift bags filled with hats, gloves, scarves, and other cold weather essentials. Men dressed as the Three Kings ride horses to lead a procession of Polish Catholics from St. Ferdinand Parish to St. Ladislas Parish. The procession is an annual celebration of the Epiphany, when the Three Kings, also known as the Three Wise Men, saw the star over Bethlehem and brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the baby Jesus. Members of St. Sabina Church in Chicago are treated to a free screening of Selma, a movie based on the 1965 Selma to Montgomery civil rights marches. Father Michael Flager rented 2 theaters in the Chatham neighborhood so parishioners could watch the movie in celebration of Martin Luther King Day. Archbishop Cupich blesses the Pastoral Migratoria agents during a prayer service at Our Lady of Lourdes as part of National Migration Week. Archbishop Cupich spoke at St. Alphonsus Church in Chicago as part of a Mass with the Guatemalan community. They were celebrating the feast of El Señor de Esquipulas. And the Archbishop will be celebrating welcome Masses in all 6 vicariates during January and February. The Vicariate 1 Mass took place at St. Anne Church in Barrington. I'm Michelle Adamowski with your trip around the Archdiocese.
You can view this program, as well as hundreds of other Catholic videos around the Archdiocese of Chicago, by visiting our YouTube channels, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago and youtube.com/Chicago Catholico. Thank you very much, Archbishop, for your thoughts, for your time. It's a pleasure to be with you. I look forward to the next time that we're together.
Thanks. You do a great job, Todd. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Archbishop. And thank you to our viewers for watching. We will see you next time on Catholic Chicago.
We invite you to watch segments of Catholic Chicago and hundreds of additional Catholic videos at youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.